I think for me, judging the picture awards, I've done it twice. First year was quite seamless. Second year, Nnamdi, I think you'll know, I had a few issues, a few hiccups trying to like get into the country when I could and actually do the work I needed to do, but I managed to pull it off. But I would say in those 2 years of doing the judging, the best experience is actually listening to everyone else's opinions around you, your peers, because sometimes you have an opinion and you feel quite strongly about it, but after a while, that opinion can actually get swayed with a little bit of logic. And the second one is the fact that the beauty of it being across all the countries in Africa, what you start sort of identifying is you've seen ideas before in different places. So, for example, you know, there's nothing wrong with looking back at what's worked before and, you know, creating another version of said example. But I would say sometimes, you know, you find something, you're like, oh, then I'm sure I saw that in Cameroon, or you know, maybe when I was in South Africa, I saw a similar campaign for whichever, and all the judges' experience from the different markets can pull at all of those different things. And I think for me, those are the two most rewarding things I found with the judging is getting my opinion changed, which is it's pretty hard to do. You know, you're always quite stuck in your opinion. And the other one is finding out where you think something's amazing and someone will go, oh, hold on a second. And then they show you something where the stimulation comes from, reminds you of different things, and then you can build on that. So for me, those are the two, for me, probably the nicest parts of the experience, just the experience from all around the countries, all helping to make one decision.
So the name is Venus Tawiah. I joined as a jury member last year, and then was also nominated to stand in for the president on our category Pictures for Good. What's really interesting for me, being able to look at the variety of work that's coming through from various places in Africa, is that you spot the trends. It's nice to see, being in Ghana and working across the sub, you see certain trends that in terms of topics that people are picking on. But when you're looking at like a body of work submitted from different places in Africa, I think one of the interesting things for me is seeing, you know, how that resonates across the continent. So we did see a lot of work anchored on social causes and social centering of brands last year, which seems to be a trend that's going to continue through, where brands are trying to demonstrate like their capacity beyond their normal course of business. And then also just the learnings from the peers, the other judges who come from various disciplines within the creative space, and seeing and also sitting in different countries across Africa, and seeing the views that they put across, and having really great banters around like the submissions that we are to judge. Yeah, so those are the two key things that really resonated for me.
Thank you very much for that. And I'll move on straight up to Colin, Max, and Ngari to also share with us his experience being a judge, as it were.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. And yeah, great to see everyone again. I managed to judge the Picture Awards, I think it was in 2021. And last year I didn't get to judge, but I was a huge winner. I think being in—
Congratulations.
Yeah.
I think it's always great when you meet a really diverse jury. I think, you know, spending the time looking at work from across Africa, from different countries, really gives you a lens into what the cultures are, or what are the problems are in those countries, which is always amazing. My experience with the Picture Award was really, really seamless. I think I got to meet colleagues, I got to make connections with other creative people in the field, and of course, just debate on work. And like Graham and Venus have just mentioned, you know, it's always amazing when you're debating of, you know, you have your own views and opinions based on your experience, but then you get to have your opinion swayed, or you get to bring forward a different perspective, which people didn't think about. It's always amazing to just spend time looking at a lot of work, looking at what could be improved, looking at who's doing better than the other. So that healthy competition amongst agencies across Africa is always great. Yeah.
All right, great, fantastic. I mean, every juror here who has spoken also doubles as a winner, and that's one aspect I also want to ask you. Let me just chip that in and have you, wrap up your thoughts on that. I mean, being a judge, did it in any way change? Did it do anything about your perception? As a winner, if you win an award and you're never a judge, you may never know how they arrive at that, even though you're told. But being a judge, you see it firsthand, the process, as it were, which we'll get into in a moment. What did that do anything to you? I mean, a winner and a judge.
I think one, being a winner is just a validation that the work that you actually put out there was to a high standard. So you're not just looking at work in isolation. There is 15, 20 other people who look at the work and concur that it was amazing. So there's those aspects of one, being a winner, where you're convinced, you're validated that the work was actually really, really special. But also when you think as a jury, you need to be more or less you need to look at work with fresh eyes. So you need to leave behind your biases. You need to leave behind the stereotypes you think about a certain category or brand, and just, allow yourself to be more open and listen and see what the actual work is. So it's basically wearing two hats. Winners, it just validates that, the work out there was great. Being a jury is wearing the hat of a judge and just being very open-minded and very sober when you look at the things. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Well spoken. So we'll move on to the next item, because this is where most participants of this event, whether you're watching it, you're part of this particular conversation now, or you are going to stream it later, which I know will be online for your consumption. The most important part of this conversation, which has to do with eligibility, the process, what exactly is the Picture Awards, and all the questions that we have to ask about this amazing award that we all know it's designed to celebrate creativity in Africa, for Africa, that's very important. So I'm going to bring our next speaker now, who it's a passionate man. When it comes to, we all are passionate, but his own is just on another level when it comes to, the creative space in Africa. And a man I respect a whole lot. That's talking about Dr. Nnamdi, who, of course, he is the chair of the Picture Festival, as you know him too well. So we'll bring him on to take on this all-important part of this conversation, which has to do with what the Picture Award is all about, the deadline, eligibility, categories, and everything regarding the Picture Award. So, Mr. Nnamdi, it's over to you. Your turn. Let's get to know what is the deadline, eligibility, and what categories are there.
Okay, thank you, Colin. First of all, Picture Awards promotes excellence in marketing communications by evaluating the ranking and benchmarking creativity and skill in the industry. It is open to work created or released or implemented anywhere in Africa. This means that if you've created work anywhere in Africa, it's eligible for entry into Picture Awards. It also means that if you reside outside of Africa and you have created work with the intention of running it within the continent of Africa, that work is also eligible for entry. In terms of eligibility timeframe, the work needs to have been released for the first time to the public between 1st of January 2022 and 31st of March 2023. That is for the 2023. In terms of what the categories. We have 6 main categories. There are actually many of them, so I'll just tell you what the main categories are. But you may not remember, but you can go to the website and check. But I'll probably just list them out. You have the channel category. Under the channel category, you have subcategories of use of media, use of data, use of insights and strategy, use of influencers and brand ambassadors. You also have the integrated campaigns and PR and reputation management. Well, in the craft is another. Each of these are actually groups judged by an independent jury. So the channel categories are judged by an independent jury with their own jury president. And the other jurors don't have access to the materials entered into this category. So you also have the craft category, which includes audio craft, design craft, digital and mobile craft. Is actually digital, mobile, and social. You have film craft and print craft. Under the digital category, you have websites, you have apps, you have games, messaging, and any other idea that we are not able to classify. So we call that novel. And then you have also devices. Then you have entertainment, which includes various subcategories like film, audio, media promo, live events, and so on. Then you also have the category for good. The category for good is basically broken into 2. Those that are submitted, or those that were created by for-profit organizations, and those that were created by non-profit organizations. Then the heritage includes most of the traditional media like radio, TV, or film in general. Then you have design, outdoor, and print. So basically, these are the categories. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think that's super clear. All the categories have been mentioned. 6 major categories. I have subcategories under them, and show that that gives a whole lot of clarity about the question of category, eligibility, and deadline. Just like you've mentioned, as it were, from the 1st of January. I mean, those who are eligible. I mean, we've heard all of that. So let's move on to the next item, which has to do with errors, because, you know, when it comes to putting entry, it's always a process. So people get to miss the process and then make some mistakes. So what are those common errors that applicants or you observe as far as entries are concerned? So of course, the jurors will be talking on this particular question. And I will start with Venus. Venus, what were the errors you observed, the common errors observed as a juror for the Picture Awards?
Okay, I'll speak from experience generally with I think it's really important for people to go through and read the submission notes and then identify specifically which category their work fits within. You know, because when we're creating creatively for campaigns that respond to particular brief, especially when the body of work is so big, it's possible to dissect your work to fit into different categories, okay? So it's really important for people to read and understand the various categories, and then how that translates into the work that they're submitting. Because often there's the opportunity for work to be submitted into more than one category, which people miss. And also there's the opportunity for stories to be told, which allow them to be submitted into other categories. So it's just so understanding the various categories that you can apply to, so that you don't miss out on a possible award, I'd say would be a key thing.
Thank you very much. I'll move on to Graham now. Graham, what are those common errors that you personally observed, being a judge for the Picture Awards?
Yeah, maybe I could flip it around. So I wouldn't necessarily say I'll try and put them as more like what you should do versus what the errors were. And I would say, totally agree with Venus on the one point is change your copy to suit the category you're entering. Because what I often find is you'll see one entry and you'll see it pop up again and again and again, but the copy is exactly the same, but the actual category is quite different. So mold your copy to the category you're entering, and you can keep the same video or the same visuals you want, but the copy, the text should be categorized. Categorized, I suppose, or change. The second two is the judges, from my experience, there are so many entries to judge. So telling a good story and keeping it concise and punchy is so important. So it's very difficult when entry is not necessarily written that well, or whichever it might be, and you get a little bit lost because you've still got so many entries to judge, and it becomes difficult. So immediately as a human, I suppose you would say, you're sort of like, oh, I'm struggling with this one, and it gives you that feeling that you're struggling, So make it easy, tell your story short and sweet, and change your copy to suit your category. Those would be my ones. And obviously, if you don't do that, then that would be an error.
Wow. I mean, that's so precise. I mean, telling a good story when you put your entry short, I mean, they'll kiss it. I remember our early days, one of our mentors would tell us that whatever you have to do, just kiss it. Keep it short and simple, but also very clear. As well. Thank you, Graham, for that. And I'll move on now to bring next juror to speak. Speaker, of course, in the person of Max Ngari. Max, tell us what you observed in this regard.
Yeah, just building on what Venus and Graham just mentioned is you do have to be, you have to be critical in where you enter the work. So learning about the categories, the subcategories, and I've seen a trick where most people really analyze the categories and they look for categories where they think there won't be a lot of competition. So having just the proper understanding around the categories and really putting your work in where it should fit is really, really important. And as Graham has mentioned, the quality of your case, we're all in advertising, we're all in marketing. So judges are always looking for that finesse in terms of the work, in terms of the films that they'll see. They want to see a case that is, number one, really short. So we're talking between 1 minute and 2 minutes long. And also they want to see the craft. They want to see how well executed the work was. So just for me would be just having that critical understanding of where to put your work in. So learning about your categories, and 2, quality of your case study. So just making sure that it's well crafted, that the story can be seen, that the idea is very clear, would be my take there.
Thank you very much. Clarity, a key word. I mean, be critical about the categories. Well said. Points also from Graham. Tell a good story, keep it short and simple. Identifying your category, what the jurors have said concerning, some common mistakes that people making their submission. But let's go to the next item now, which has to do with the procedure or the process, the entry process. And I'll bring Nnamdi one more time, Dr. Nnamdi, to join us to explain the process of putting in for the Picture Awards. So, Dr. Nnamdi, one more time, what's the process? Is it an easy process?
It's quite easy and straightforward, but I guess a lot of people get worried when they know that it has to be done online. But I don't expect anybody in this generation to be afraid of online. Well, I'll just take you through the process. Let me share my screen so that when I mention something, you'd also be able to see it. So we'll start from the home page of Picture Festival, and I recommend that you join the community, because when you join the community, you'll be able to get all the information that we send by email, and then you'll also be able to access all the restricted member pages. Then if you've joined the community and you need to know more about Picture Awards, you could get access to the Picture Awards page by clicking the Picture Awards button on the navigation bar. If you need to know more about the festival, you can just scroll down to the footer where you can get the information you need about Picture Festival, the information you need about Picture Awards, and if it is the academies that you're interested in, then you may also need to look into the academy. We noticed that a lot of students also register for Picture Awards. They probably don't understand that Picture Awards is not a creative competition. It's actually a business-focused awards program. So as a student entering your creative work, it will not be eligible for entry. The best way to get to the portal is by, you can get more on this, when you get to the Picture Awards page, you can download the PDF 2023 entry guidelines, and you can also have access to this information if you click the link for categories and requirements. You can also get access to the entry portal here. And if you want to see some of the questions that people usually ask, you can also access the FAQs. But the easiest way to get to the portal is when you click the red button above. It takes you straight to the entry portal. If you're coming here for the first time, then you might need to register. You do this only once. The process of registration is just you adding some of your personal details in order to build a profile. And when you've done this, you could now enter your work. And to start entering your work, you select the category that you're entering into from the category drop down. And you've completed the details that are required, and then you simply submit. And after you've submitted, it takes you back to the dashboard. And from this dashboard, you can view your entry, the blue button at the extreme left. You can edit that particular entry with the green button following it. And with the orange button, you can duplicate. And if you want to delete the entry completely, you can do that as well. And if you, on the extreme right to the top, you have this submit a new entry button. With this, you can begin to submit an entry from scratch. Yeah, if you are submitting a campaign in Heritage of Craft, and a campaign is an idea with multiple executions in the same medium, it might be easier for you to use the duplicate button to recreate that particular entry. Then you upload the new execution, and you repeat this process for as many times as you have executions in that campaign, so that you don't have to start rewriting everything again. But if you have specific information that apply to an execution, you can also include those specific information inside the form for the particular execution that you're going to submit. And if you have any issues, all you need to do is go to the main website and click the chat icon at the base of the website, and then someone will respond to you. We are online most times, but even when we are not online, we can assure you that we'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And you also have it when you're on the dashboard, you have the option to make payments. You can make payment by card, or you can make payment by bank transfer. If you choose to make payment by bank transfer, you need to select the telegraphic transfer when that option is shown. And when you do that, we'll send you an invoice with the bank details, and you'll be able to pay by bank transfer, especially if you want to pay in a currency like Naira. Again, you have the option of waiting to complete all your entries, selecting all of them and making a one payment instead of paying for each entry. And like I said, if you have any issues at any stage, you can always reach out to us, and we'll assist in whatever way we can. So that's it. It's quite simple, but if there are questions, we'll also take that during the question and answer segment.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Nnamdi, for that explanation. Like you heard, we'll get to points where we'll get participants to, if you have questions, we'll get to that question and answer A&Qs, like they call it, session in just a moment. Just to confirm the website again, it's picturesfestival.com.
Picturefestival.com. There's no S in the middle.
Picturefestival.com.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. So I'll move back to our jurors now and to find out. I know you talked a bit about your experience, what it was like to, or what it is like to be a judge. But now we want to talk about that again a bit more from the point of view of, look, what was your personal experience being a judge for this award? You can make it as brief as possible. Especially the process specifically now, not just what you've said, but the process. What is the process like from your experience of judging in this award category? So I will start with Graham on this one. What's the process like?
Yeah, I would say it's actually quite tricky. Reason being is, you have a passion for the industry and you want to support initiatives, and be a judge is a really awesome thing to be able to do, and look at all the bodies or bodies of work, should I say. The most difficult part, though, is unfortunately trying to find time to actually get the headspace to be able to pay full attention to the incredible work that's been presented, right? So we've all got sort of, let's call it day jobs, and you've got the pressures from your clients and your normal things that you're working on, etc. And then at the same time, you've got these awards entries to judge. And I would say for me, that's just something of the process that I'm always reminded of, is you have to create this like headspace for the work, because it can't be a thing that you just sort of have to rush through. You have to spend the time and give the work the credit it deserves. So for me, that's probably one of the hardest parts about being a judge in the process, is just making sure that you focus and you concentrate and you give every single award the same amount of attention than the one before, and making sure you get through all your entries, because there's always a lot to judge.
Thank you very much. And Venus, how would you describe your experience of the process of being a judge?
Hi, because I enjoyed the whole process. Like Graham said, yes, making time, and adequate time to give justice to all the submissions is important. We often have like there could be 200 or more individual entries that you have to look through per category, you see. In terms of how Picture structure themselves, where we work in teams. So you'll have a lead, the president of a particular category, and then jury members on board that form a team. So there's a nice spread it's organized in such a way that you all have access to the work that's been submitted or that's of the standard to be judged for an award within your category. And as a team, we kind of set ourselves a timeline by which we will all have gone through each category and given our own individual scoring. I find that, like Graham said, we all represent agencies, and we all are gatekeepers of creative work. So it's very important to be able to detach yourself from the agency that you represent. So last year, for example, where I sat as a juror, we actually didn't submit to the pitches. In that way, you're able to look objectively at the submissions that have been entered and then score accordingly without any investment. I think it's really nice when the group gets together, because after you've individually scored, then we get together as a team to review our scores and really discuss where there's really high disparities in scoring. So you do have campaigns where, you know, a few of you could have scored it really low, and a few of you could have scored it really high. And those are the interesting debates, you know, so that you can meet at a ground where everybody's in agreement with the score, and if it's deemed that it should get an award. So that whole process, I really do enjoy it, and I think the learnings that you take from it, when you then go back and back into the seat of, okay, I am somebody who's now submitting to the awards, work that we'd want to share with the world and work which we'd want to be awarded. You now have a better understanding of the work that the judges have to do. You understand that the process that they go to at arriving at the award that is given to a particular piece of work is very fair and robust. Nobody really has an invested interest. The interest is in demonstrating that we're showcasing the best work that Africa has to show, and awarding those works accordingly to world standards. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Venus, for that. I'll move on to Max now. Max, being a judge, for a little I know, would put you in a position where you have to make very tough decisions. Sometimes, you know, you're caught in between, how do we go? How do we arrive at this? Did you have that kind of experience? So how would you describe the experience of the process as a judge? Max.
Yeah, I think with any competition out there, getting to that final piece of work where we say that this is a winner and this deserves an award, this doesn't, is most of the time it's very grueling, and it's actually very tough. One, like Graham mentioned, you have to take time off. You have to take time from your day-to-day and, you know, give the work the justice, give the work the time it deserves. You know, going through the debates, really trying to figure out, hey, could this piece of work be done better? Did they really nail the idea? Did they really showcase it in the best light? So we all have these things that we look for in the pieces of work, and the process itself kind of makes it, yes, as much as it's very tough and it's very lengthy, there's a certain enjoyment that we get from the constant debate. Jurors were there to make sure that the best work is being seen, that the best work from all these countries is celebrated. So we will debate a lot. I remember my time a few years ago. I think the debates used to get very heated, and we would push meetings to the next day so that people can have a think. People could actually, go and do the overnight test and really analyze if this piece of work really deserves it. And, at the end, the cream always rises. The best pieces, the best crafted pieces will always see the light of day. But then you do get a certain level of enjoyment in just discussing and debating the work that we see.
All right, thank you very much. Well said. I'm still with you, Max. We're moving on to the next item, which has to do with the tips. I mean, you guys are all winners. You're also past judges. So that means that you have a lot to say. You have a lot to give, especially for participants who are here listening and those who watch this later. I would like to put an entry. So the first thing is, let me know the impact of winning the Picture Awards. And then also, what tips would you give to someone who would like to, create a winning entry?
I mean, yeah, it's amazing winning an award, and especially winning, award such as the Picture Awards, which is a regionally, and it's an Africa-wide competition. So it feels great. It actually helps. Like, for example, in our case, it helped Dentsu Kenya have the reputation as the most awarded agency in our country. We definitely are getting more business through this. We're attracting clients who want to see their brands up there. And of course, we're also attracting talent. So winning an award goes a long way in just making sure that you're attracting the best people. People are feeling motivated. People are feeling recognized for their work. So goes a long way in just keeping, our spirits high. And, for the love of creativity, we really enjoy seeing our work up there. So it's a creative's dream, seeing the pieces of work that you worked on being recognized by other people who did not see this campaign, but they can see the brilliance in it. So yeah. And in terms of the tips I would give, I always say the holy grail of your case study should be the film, should be the 2-minute case film that you put into your entry. I think there's a lot of crafting there. And just to summarize, I have 5 tips that I always use. I call them my 5 Bs, the 5 Bs of writing the film, of, coming up with that case study film. And the first one is just be simple. If you have simplicity at the back of your mind, it will be very easy for you to, show clarity in the idea, show how compelling your strategy was. And even when you're showcasing the execution, showcasing the work, you'll always go for those moments where the consumers was mind blown. So just having that simplicity in mind, that you do not need to show everything. You just need to show the best pieces that really cause that engagement. Another one is be very brief. You only have 2 minutes at max. The best films I've seen are between 1 minute and 1.5 minutes. Well, because the juries have so many things to get through. They have 200, 300 entries. So if you're saving their time, if you're being clear about the idea, it's easy for them to make a decision really quick. And another thing is be contextual. So this is an Africa-wide competition, it's an Africa-wide festival. People want to land where the problem, people want to see, juries want to see the background of of where the idea came from. Keep that, always make sure that the context is very clear, that you're really establishing the background. I can see where the problem is, hence why this amazing idea. Be sequential.
So we have to move it up a bit. Sorry, Max, I have to move up a bit fast, because the next thing we're going to do is the question and answer session for a few last minutes. And if you have a question already, just for a moment, you can drop it as a participant. You can just raise your hand and drop the question so we can read them as we move on. Or for those who would bring on to ask the question, it's okay. So go ahead. So wrap it up, and then we'll have the same question for all other jurors. And then we'll go to the question and answer. So yes, go ahead.
So the last 2 tips is be sequential. Be sequential, where you can clearly tell in your film that there was a problem, there was a solution, and here are the results. that has to be seen, that has to come out. And finally, you know, be categorical. So really look at the categories, understand where you want to place the film, to place this body of work. That will really go a long way in just making sure you win.
Brilliant, brilliant. So I'll move on to Graham now. Graham, in 1 minute or less, just kidding, but as fast as you can, tell us the experience, your tips, and also, of course, briefly talk about how the award, winning the award, has changed business for you.
I can, probably do that in 1 minute. I would say from a personal point of view, so like I suppose you could say an emotional point of view, it feels pretty awesome to win an award, right? It's kind of testament to the fact that you've been doing some good work, you've been pushing some boundaries, and you're maybe taking angles that other people aren't taking, and you know, it makes you get a good feeling. It's nice to stand on stage and celebrate with your colleagues, even if it's a virtual stage. And then the last one is it's obviously very beneficial for the profile of the group you work for, or the company you work for, right? It's testament to the brand doing good work. So there's two things, essentially. The one is it's great for you as a person, gives you a good feeling that you're doing great work and makes you sort of feel warm and emotional. And then the second one would be it's great for your brand and your business that you work for. And you put those things together, you're probably on a pretty good wicket. Yeah.
Right. So in one word, what tip would you give someone who took a tip on creating a winning entry? What would you tell a participant right now?
Oh, I would say go for it. It's not easy to enter an award. It takes a little bit of time to curate and craft your award. I know it's not one word, apologies. But I think going back to the start, it would be like, go for it, just do it. I think people are intimidated to enter awards and they're not sure if their work's good enough. Go for it and you'll soon find out, right? That's
right.
That would be it.
Thank you, Graham. Appreciate you. And Venus, how would you jump on that question?
Okay, so I'll start with the tips. When you're looking at entering into a award, your catalogue of work is really important. So I'd say start early. Start with the view that you're going to create award-winning work, right? And if you have that as a mindset, like throughout the year, you'll then build a catalogue of work which you think is award entry worthy, right? Which you can select from and you can use as your submissions. Not every category requires a video, but your video piece is a big piece of telling your story. So look at how, and not everybody has a big budget in terms of being able to produce like a video. So I'd ask you to use your resources well and look at the story that you need to tell for the category which you're going to enter into. So those would be my two main tips. In terms of how it's benefited, like our business in particular, it's a full circle for me because I work on bringing in money and we use our accolades and our work to sell business and position the business. So awards go a long way towards doing that, especially when they're international accolades. Clients want to know that you're producing world standard work that is award-winning. Every client would wish that the campaigns you run for them will win awards for them. It speaks a lot for them and the agency yourself. And then as creatives too, like Graham says, it's an accolade to the fact that your work and the creativity that you're producing, it resonates with your peers and resonates with industry. So they're really important things. And they're an investment for the business as well.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. So successfully, I could say that we've come to the end of this amazing session, but we have questions and answers to take a few questions to wrap up. And we have one question in the chat box. It's an anonymous sender. I don't know if, and the question certainly we're going to Mr. Nnamdi or Dr. Nnamdi. I don't know if it's okay if you want to respond to an anonymous person.
Right. Well, the prices are online, so it's not a secret. So, and it's $100, but I guess he wants to know how much it is in Naira. That will depend at the time that the payment is being made, because of course, you know, our exchange rate is always fluctuating. So, and I think we're in the same boat with Ghana at the moment. So we have exchange rates that are going up and down. So we can't say what it is, but it's $100 for most of the apart from integrated campaign, which is $150, and integrated digital campaign, which is $130. All the other ones are $100 each. Yeah, and the currency value it's determined at time of payment.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think that's, in the absence of any other question, except if you have one now. If not, I think we're good to wrap this all up. I must say it's been, is there any other question? Let me quickly confirm that. I don't think so. No other questions. So successfully, we can say that we've had this amazing session on how to create a winning entry for the Picture Awards. And of course, you know where to go if you have any other questions. So I'm going to let Dr. Nnamdi wrap this up. When we just, you know, parting shot, as it were. But I also like to say a big thank you to all the jurors, for the speakers of this amazing. It was so much fun. It felt like we're in the same room, even though we had some hitches at the beginning. But thank God we successfully pulled it through. And I really must say thank you to Graham, thank you to Venus, thank you to Max. You all spoke well. Over to you, Dr. Nnamdi. Your parting shot.
Right. Yeah, so thank you everybody who has joined us for this webinar. Look forward to seeing you at the festival. This year we're going to be having an in-person event, you know, for 20. This is actually going to be the very first in-person picture festival. You know, when Picture Festival started in 2018, it was part of another event called the Creativity Week. And then we had a second edition, and then it was open only to West Africa. And then we had the second edition in 2019, and that was when we were hoping to start the festival. But unfortunately, with COVID-19, we couldn't have an in-person event in 2020. So this is going to be the very first in-person picture festival that will take place in Lagos in May, from the 18th to the 20th. So look forward to welcoming all of you from everywhere in the world, and also to seeing your entries. And thank you so much for attending this session. Of course, Picture Festival will be traveling. So in subsequent years, we'll look for those who are willing to bring Picture Festival to their various countries, and Picture Festival will be traveling across Africa. So, but you know, they say Lagos is the home. So we start the first one in Lagos and then pass the baton. So that's how it's going to be.
Well,
okay, yeah. So thank you all for being present, and I look forward to the fantastic work that we'll be celebrating this year. Awesome work that I know that are being created in different parts of the world. Yeah, it's only with Picture Awards that you know that people are doing mighty things. Africa is a big space, you know. Until we started Picture Awards, I never saw any material from Senegal, never saw any material from Cape Verde, never saw any material from Mauritius, but with Picture Awards, has been able to bring all these excellent creative works together. So once again, I say thank you. Yeah.
Well, that's it. Thank you so much for being a part of the session. And well, it's been an honor to be your host. My name is Collins. Teke. Bye, everybody.